All right, thank you, Chairman. We learned during the hearings that we've been holding and by the research that had gone on in support of those hearings that the last two inspectors to go out to the Deepwater Horizon were a father and son team, part of a union. There were all kinds of allegations we learned that were under investigation by a Department of Interior commission, something. So we were told we couldn't be privy to all of the evidence that was being raised with regard to the inspections by MMS. We were told by Director Birnbaum that the single check and balance upon the inspectors to make sure that they absolutely did their job in inspecting these offshore rigs, as these inspectors stood between our homeland and potential disaster. The check and balance was they were sent out in pairs. That was the check, because we were told by Director Birnbaum that would ensure that since there were two different inspectors there who watched each other carefully and would certainly report if there were any impropriety by the other inspector, any omission, any misaction of commission, they would be there to report the other. So it was particularly disturbing to know that the check and balance, the only one on these inspectors, involved a father and son, a unionized father and son. When I asked questions about the extent of the union contract, Director Birnbaum could not answer those questions, but it has been particularly disturbing as we've seen the oil continue to gush out of that well that was created by a company that has had more apparently safety violations than any other company working out in the Gulf. And yet the government's prime protection for our homeland that involved this cozy relationship that the President has admitted has been existing, you had unionized father and son out there protecting us. Now, we know that some of the allegations that have arisen, they are allegations, or that some of these inspectors had perhaps their own drilling program. Some have said they were literally in bed with people they were supposedly inspecting. Nonetheless, the checks and balances obviously have not worked. To complicate matters by saying that these people on the front line of protecting our homeland would be unionized, could have the right to strike at the worst possible moment for providing protection to our homeland, that they could have restrictions on their hours that they could work, is just unfathomable. So arising out of those hearings, which I do appreciate the chair calling and holding, very important, this amendment comes. Very basic, as anyone can see. Simply says an individual who conducts inspections on American domestic energy production or any investigations under this section may not participate in a strike or assert the right to strike, because to do so would be holding our homeland hostage to an inspector who would be like somebody in the military. When you sent somebody out, you're going to stand guard on the perimeter. They get out on the perimeter. They only one out there protecting you from the enemy, and they report that they're on strike, or they may strike if you don't do this, that, or the other. This nation cannot afford that. There's a time and place for people who are mistreated to strike, and inspectors out protecting our homeland from disaster is not the place. So for that reason, I submit this amendment, and we'll sure answer any questions or opposition that may exist. Thank you. I yield back.